everyone gets eventually. Some people are still 50 and haven't figured it out. Some people figure it out at 12, but it's like, okay, who am I really going to be? As when a person becomes an adult, and it's not just, oh, I always wanted to be a firefighter. There comes a day where it's like, no, who do I really, like, who am I? And that to me, I guess, if there wasn't if I had an autobiography, I'd probably start with that story. So I guess that's my who am I going to be moment, is moving to Toronto and creating this magazine, this zine.
Welcome to the Backyard Variety Tour. Coming to you from his studio apartment in Toronto, it's the Backyard Variety Tour, featuring your host, Ian.
What's up, yardies? What's up, yardies? And welcome back to the show. As always, I'm your host, Ian Pozz, and this is the Backyard Variety Tour. Today's episode is brought to you by Flavor Factory. That's Euro Flavor Factory on social media and flavorfactory.ca. Make sure you check them out to order some hot sauces. We're going to have some hot sauces for our St. Paddy's Day episode coming up in March. King of the Wing. I'm sure you've seen some of the King of the Wing videos, so they're going to be sponsoring King of the Wing, and let's just give you a heads up for some of that coming up. Okay, yardies, what's up? I'm working on half-assed jokes. I'm actually going to get Russell, and that reminds me, thanks to Russell. We wouldn't be here without Russell, so as always, thanks to Russell. I'm actually going to get Russell. We got to make a new clip for half-assed impressions. So we're going to add half-assed impressions into it. And so we don't just have half-assed jokes, it's going to be half-assed jokes and half-assed impressions going forward. And I'm going to go on about the movie Network. I'm going to play the character Howard Beale from Network. And you'll see I'm just going to read from my phone because I can actually give a better performance that way rather than needing to memorize and blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to go from my phone and I'll get into it and you'll see how relevant it is to today. I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat, and we sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us today that we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad, they're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy. So we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house and slowly the world we are living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radials, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not gonna leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you what to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being, God damn it. My life has value. So I want you to get up now. I want you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. I want you to get up right now, sit up, go to your windows, open them, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Things have got to change, but first you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Then we'll figure out what to do about the depression and inflation and the oil crisis. But first, get up out of your chairs, open the window, stick your head out and yell, and say it, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You know, we should really make social media illegal, or you should at least have to pay to use it. I think we need some sort of control over it. All people do now is spend their lives on their phones, especially if they're not self-motivated. We need to strive for something more with our free time, to strive for meaning and substance, and to get away from facades. No one is anything they appear on social media. They're not happy, they're not funny, they're not kind. They're pathological liars, and they're not only lying to you, but they're lying to themselves. It's toxic. It's a toxic waste dump of information. It affects our mental health negative. Gone insane, got no brain. It affects our emotions and day-to-day life negatively. Even if we're receiving positive likes and things like that, eventually you're going to become accustomed to them. and addicted to them, and you're going to need them even more, so it's going to cause anxiety. So even positivity is going to cause anxiety from it. And then just what you see, you should have this, you should be doing that, you should look like this, and if you don't, you're not normal, you're not popular, you're not relevant. It's made people become egocentric and self-centered. Me, me, me. Me, me, me. It's given us a false sense of fame. People think they're models, superstars, champions, celebrities. People misuse it as a tool for self-promotion rather than self-service. It's become all about, what can you do for me, not what can I do for you? And when in history did anyone take photos of themselves? Now that's all there is. Photos of just them. Photo after photo of them in different poses. And the odd time a plate of food. We used to take photos of things we wanted to remember. Family, friends, special moments. We used to be selective about the pictures we wanted to take because that would give the moment weight and substance. Now we take so many pictures that we actually need to spend money to buy more space to store them. So that's how vain we've become. That's all we want to remember. Photos of ourselves in different positions and shirtless selfies. But what about that trip, that friend, that moment you shared with someone in time? That thing you wanted to remember because it actually meant something. People are addicted, folks. Addicted. I mean, they could have clinics for this just the same as they have Alcoholics Anonymous and drug rehab clinics. They could have addiction clinics for social media. It's just as bad as drugs and alcohol. I mean, no wonder everyone in the younger generation has anxiety is because they were born with a phone in their hand. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the magazine?
Sure. So a zine compared to a magazine. So a magazine is basically, at least in my opinion, and what I've been taught, is a magazine that is more underground. It's more DIY. It's more, sometimes handmade, compared to a magazine, which you would find on newsstands, right? So that's that's the difference, in my opinion, between a zine and a magazine. But for mine, WordZine, which I've always thought is a great name for a zine. It just kind of pops. If you're giving it out, you're spreading the word, which it's a free magazine. So for me, how I got started in creating it, it was for me going to journalism school in 2005, I'd like to say, I think, and going through journalism school and just learning. I mean, the magazine itself, it's very DIY and it has structure, but a magazine company would say, like, what is this in a sense? But that's where I learned at least what it means to be a journalist. So to, just like you do, gather information about the people you're pursuing for interviews, come up with the structure of how you want it to be presented. Apart from that, it's magazines, are more made on computers or more made on, InDesign and created that way. For my magazine, I make it cut and paste. So I wanted it to have that 80s style vibe that the first zines I ever saw, and I mean, there's a history of skate zines in the 80s, which came from the punk scene, because punk zines were something as well. Just cut and paste, almost like a ransom note. And that's how my magazine is done. So every individual page is made one by one by cutting things out of magazines or newspapers, or I just found stuff on the street, like once I was in San Francisco and someone had pasted all these Spock characters on a light post, and I just ripped one off and put it in my little bag, and there that made it into a page. So it's made in that style. It's a skateboarding first and foremost zine. Do a little bit of culture stuff. I'll do a food review, do shoe reviews for stuff, but it's mainly focused on skateboarding, and interviews with skateboarders and photography from skateboarders. There'll be some party photos and stuff like that. So that's how I kind of became into this whole of wanting to create something, and I did it when I first moved to Toronto in 2008 from Kitchener, where I'm from, to have something to be able to be at skate events and say, like, this is who I am, this is what I make, and this is what I contribute. Also, being a 21-year-old at the time, it was how do you fit in? I'm not from here. All these other kids know each other in a sense. I mean, I knew some people, So that was the start of how, my story leading up to how I had the confidence to create a zine, the style of the zine, and then why I was doing the zine.
What can we expect in WordZine 5? Where can people get it? Where's it showing? Tell me as much as you can about WordZine 5. Looks awesome.
Yeah, Jonah Hill on the front cover. WordZine 5 is the newest issue of WordZine, 94 pages long, each page made by hand and then scanned. There are interviews with a local Toronto amateur skateboarder, John Koss. He's an OG. Love that kid. Brian Schaefer, who is the owner of the skate park of Tampa, which is one of the most legendary skate parks in the world. I'd say if you had to say the most legendary skate parks in the world, Skate Park Tampa have to be up there in terms of what they've done. Apart, not just what they are, what they've done. And then Spencer Hamilton has the Top Fives interview. He's a Canadian pro. He's amazing. There is a pretty sick sticker insert. So this sticker page is in every issue. So it just goes in the middle. And where you can get it is you can reach out to WordZine on Insta, just a DM. The issues are free. I would just ask that, because I'm mailing out hundreds of copies, that if you want a copy, pay for shipping, and I'll throw in some stickers, and the zine is free. Just cover the shipping. In Toronto, you can get it at all the skate shops: Blue Tile Lounge, So Hip It Hurts, Adrift, Hammer. It's also it's getting to this week, but London Skateboard Co-op in London, Ontario, The Local in Hamilton, Ontario. Shout out to Jay Dworsky. And then apart from that, Vancouver, I'm flying out to Vancouver on March the 4th, and I'm hosting a release party at the Vancouver Skate Plaza, which I'll just be doing a little best trick event at the plaza, having a table, giving out copies for free, stickers. And apart from that, this will be announced in the upcoming week. The Skate Park of Tampa in Florida is going to be announcing that they are going to be the sole distributor of WordZine 5 for America. So if a person in the States wants a copy, you just need to reach out to the Skate Park of Tampa and their web store, and you can get a copy that way. So it's and that's a huge first, having that, instead of me having to mail out 20 different copies to people all over the States and paying all the shipping, which is more expensive if you're sending to the States. I just sent 100 copies to Tampa, and they're going to do it for me and promote it too. So that's pretty big. So that's a little bit about WordZine 5, and basically it's 1,000 copies I made, and I just want to get them to everyone. When they're all gone, then my job's done, and I can start in on the next issue.
Sweet. Oh, so you won't start the next issue until you finish the hustle for this one. Is that it?
Well, basically, when I get back from Vancouver, I'll be back March 10th. I'll start the process on the next.
You're kind of always collecting things, I'm sure, along the way,
yes.
But right?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Always collecting things, always networking as well.
Very good. Very awesome. I like your social media as well. I like the aesthetic. Is it you who comes up with the graphics where it was like the Hollywood sign? It said WordZine, or there was something else, the two God and someone else reaching and touching fingers, and WordZines in the middle. Who comes up with that stuff?
Yeah. So everything with WordZine is me. I have friends that help me, drive around to pick up the copies, which I appreciate so much, or friends that come with me on the skate trips. I can't do all the tricks, right? But when it comes to everything, creation, distribution, marketing, all that jazz, it's all me. And I wouldn't really want to have it any other way. Someday I might have to expand a bit, but it's my labor of love.
So it's something interesting you said there. You wanted the excuse to kind of be at skating events. And I understand that, because technically, I could apply for press passes. Now, I run this podcast. I say I have a fan base or something like that. I could say, hey, I want a media pass for TIFF or a concert. And maybe you'll get denied some, but maybe you'll get into some, and you could be considered like a news outlet or a source or whatever, anything like that. So it's kind of interesting. I like that angle. You wanted to be involved. You said, this is how I want to do it to get there and be seen or whatever and expand.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's definitely it. And as well, it was before that, being younger, even before the move to Toronto, being at some of these events, seeing these, up and coming amateurs and people that would, you're seeing in the magazines and stuff, and being like, so how do I fit into this as a young person? And then, how it evolved over time is, 2008 started, put the first issue out, have a little event at a random bar in the back, garage area of this bar, have some friends out, give out 120 copies, which the first issue was. And then from there, just kind of put one out and just said, okay, well, what am I going to do next? And immediately started it on the second issue. So that came out in 2009. So 1 year later, and that was, a little bit bigger, a little bit more effort into interviews and stuff like that. Still were a lot of learning experiences to go through with, making a magazine is one thing. Being able to print and bind it is a totally another thing, especially if you're just a 22-year-old at that point, trying to figure out, and paying for it's another thing. Who's going to pay for it? So the process was rolling.
So what were you doing? Sorry to interrupt. How were you paying for it at that time?
Well, I was just paying for it out of pocket. What
job were you doing to pay for it?
At that time, I was working at Quicksilver retail store on Queen Street, the same street I lived, just down the street. So just had my own $500 apartment across the street from Much Music on Queen Street West. I wonder how much that place would be these days. And just started cutting and pasting, and that's how the zine was created and born. It's not like I was, making any money. I was living paycheck to paycheck, far more than I live paycheck to paycheck these days, or far more drastically living paycheck to paycheck. Going to school at George Brown whenever I decided to go to class, I guess, which was my second go at college after journalism. It was for marketing. So that's how I would pay for it. And I mean, even now, I still pay for about half of it out of pocket. Just this newest issue that came out is the first I've ever charged for ads, which, I mean, it was definitely something that people were telling me, it's like, why aren't you charging for ads? And it's like, well, just how it's always been. But I had to, when I brought back the magazine in 2018, I was making a lot bigger runs of 500, 750, and then this newest one, 1,000. So I couldn't just front the bill of, $100, $200 from the first ones back in the 2008, 2009s. I had to start to charge for ads, which I've done. And then the most recent magazine cost about $2,500. So there had to be some different planning for that. I couldn't just whip that out of my back pocket and pay that. So a lot more planning goes into it. So back to I was getting at, how did things evolve, and that leads up to when I basically took a break doing it. So how it evolved was, apart from making the physical zines, number 1 in 2008, number 2 in 2009, and growing that way, I started to do other things to expand the knowledge of what WordZine is in the community I was, which is mainly the Dunbat Skate Park, which is Dundas and Bathurst in Toronto. That's our park. We build it every year. Rob Pointer, the guy that runs that, he facilitates that with the city. We've had our ups and downs. But
is that right near Kensington Market? And there's a McDonald's right on the corner, and there's ballparks and or hockey arena and all that stuff.
That's right, Alexandria Park. And the skaters called it, and I mean, people that don't even skate that live in the city know that area as Dunbat as well. And it's just because it's at the corner of Dundas and Bathurst. They put the two words together, Dunbat. So that's the Dunbat Skate Park. If you Google it, there's tons and tons of videos. And actually, it's a perfect segue into what I was getting at, is how I expanded what WordZine was. I started doing DJ nights, which was another way to make extra money. Working part-time at Quicksilver was not paying the bills, so I needed to do that. So the bar 751, which is down in the corner of Queen and Bathurst, there was a bar called 751 there, which has now been renamed. It was a skater bar, so I got a job after just drinking there, cheap pitchers. One day they needed someone to fill in, and I did, and started DJing. So that, calling them WordZine nights and having events on Fridays and putting videos on the screen and trying to have little, letting the skateboarders skateboard inside the bar down the little 2 stairs, which would only happen a couple times, but that's legendary that night. That was another way that the word was getting out there. I guess the word, which is kind of funny. But then the biggest one was starting to run events and starting to run skateboard contests. And they started at Dunbat Skate Park, which is that's where everyone congregates, everyone meets. So the skate contests were a huge way to really put a face to the name of the person that's making WordZine for the locals in town. And to this day, I mean, that contest has evolved and is, in my opinion, one of the best contests every year in Toronto, which is called now the Dunbat Classic. It used to be called WordZine Saturdays. So that also was another way that I was expanding WordZine and what my mission is, which is, and also I didn't really touch on this. The mission of WordZine is basically kind of to bring skaters together, to work together, and the fact that it is free and ads up until recently were free and it's all grassroots was just a way to say, like, you know, anyone can do this type of thing. But the contest has definitely been the biggest way for me to interact with the people that are my peers and spread the word, which we're doing ever since, I guess.
Yeah. So what does it do for you though, if you're doing it for free? You know, you're doing it with your own money, your own time. I know now you said you're kind of getting into ads, but there was a long period there where you were just selflessly doing it. So what does it do for you, or why is it important for you?
It goes back to one of our initial your initial questions is, you know, or one of my statements is, at the end of the day, this is, you know, who I am. And that one realization when I was younger, that this is my place, this is how I'm going to fit in. And I still have the same like idea. It's the same idea. It's changed because the role has become more complex, and getting more involved makes it, you know, there's more layers to it now, but it's the same thought process. This is how I meet, you know, new friends. This is how I keep up with my old friends. This is how I can keep my finger on the pulse of what's happening in the Canadian skateboard industry. Also the scene. So the skate scene is one thing. The skate industry is another. They work hand in hand, but they're totally different. In my opinion, the Canadian skate industry actually is just rides the coattails of the American industry, because they have the major companies, all of the distribution companies, and I love them all, and I work with them all in Canada. Their big fish are the Canadian offshoots of those big companies, the Vans, you know, DC Shoes. I'm pretty sure you know what Vans is. So there's a Canadian company that has the rights to be Vans in Canada. And nothing wrong with that. There just aren't Canadian brands that are as big as these American brands. But the Canadian skate industry is, in a sense, on the coattails of the American industry. And that makes its challenges for up and coming skateboarders. I'm not going to get into that. But the skate scene is what WordZine focuses on. The people, the real people at the skate park, whether they're good or not. I mean, at this point, I've been skateboarding so long and doing this so long. I really enjoy good skateboarders and working with them, but I really enjoy working with good people. And you can be this is just in my, you can be one of the best skateboarders, but if you don't have the right attitude, then you're not going to have anyone back you up. And so WordZine is focused on the scene and growing the skate scene by working with the skate industry, getting them as sponsors for events and getting prizes to give out to the kids. So they have to work hand in hand, but WordZine is the scene and focuses on the skate scene. The skate industry in Canada is its own thing. And we love them, and they're friends of all of ours that work for these things, but it is something that can be at times frustrating when you see, you know, Canadian skate brands, so companies that make boards or wheels or clothes, and there's a ceiling. You know, some get past that ceiling, but there's a ceiling for them because the distribution companies are only after these big ticket companies that are all American companies. I have great friends that work in the Canadian skate industry, but those are just my thoughts on it could be better if there was more effort put into Canadian skate distribution companies focusing on Canadian owned brands, because that would be that's a key that would open that ceiling up.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about your San Francisco trip recently, your California trip?
That was actually a year ago today that we dropped down, we landed. So that's ironic. I've been to San Francisco about 10 times, I believe, since 2006, and which was my first ever skate trip I ever went on. And that first, I'd say, day in 2006 just made me fall in love with San Francisco, and that's why I've been back so many times. It's the perfect city for a skateboarder because it's not very big. For people in Southern Ontario, it's as big as Kitchener-Waterloo, which is actually where I live. You can skateboard around San Francisco in one day. Now you're going to be tired, and the hills are obviously a lot crazier than anywhere else anyone's ever seen. That's another reason why San Francisco is so perfect for skateboarding is the hills. But yeah, ever since that first trip to San Francisco, I've fallen in love with it. I've had numerous trips where I've taken kids on their first ever plane ride, first ever trip. I've gone with friends that are, mentors to me and older than me. And it's always a good time. And I would, in a heartbeat, if, I had a dual citizenship or was able to live legally in the States, I'd live there in a millisecond. I'd live there, but I don't. I have to find an American girl to marry or something like that. But that's always been the plan. It's never actually worked, but oh well. Yeah, San Francisco to me is my number one favorite city in the world. Number second would be Barcelona. And then after that, New York's there and there's other places, but San Francisco is number one for sure for me. The feeling of the city is another reason kind of helped me create the vibe that I'm trying to make my magazine, my zine. Just that kind of, that real feeling.
And then what was the point of the trip? Who funds the trip? Is it self-funded by all the kids?
Everyone going pays for themselves. Yeah. Back to that, just, pay to play. But I'm basically, for these trips, like the last one, it was 21 skateboarders. Some came from Vancouver area. Some came from Toronto area. 1 or 2 from Montreal area. Went down. The last issue 4 of WordZine was called the California edition. It was a themed issue. So I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to have my first ever release event in the States. Let's do it in California. And so I pitched the idea. Long story short, we made a group chat, which is still going to this day on Insta. And 21 skateboarders came down, got a venue from a friend of mine who's a pro skateboarder who used to live in San Francisco, gave me the name of the guy that owns a nice, cool skate bar. Hit him up. He gave us the okay. Showed up in town a few days before. We were there for 10 days, went to every single skate shop myself, just walk. And I love walking around, especially San Francisco. So I just literally take a day. Everyone else goes off and does their own thing. And I'm just walking or skating to each skate shop. All of these are legendary skate shops too in San Francisco, being like, hey, can I put a poster up? You guys should show up on Saturday. And we had the event. It turned out amazing. And then during that whole trip, we were lucky enough to have a filmer, my good friend Trent Kruger. He's one of the best, in my opinion, up and coming filmers in Southern Ontario for skateboarding. He films with like an old school VX 1000 camera, which is from the late 90s, early 2000s kind of era. And we didn't go there with any intent to film a video. We were going to get footage. We were going to film, which is always the intent of every skateboarder when they're out skateboarding. But by the end of the trip, we had a good 13, 15 minutes of footage. So Trent, being Trent, and within a few days when we're back, has an edit made, and some great Johnny Paycheck, who's a great artist from the, 40s or 50s or 60s, country artist, or, kind of like Johnny Cash style. Johnny Paycheck, he found a good song that we could play and YouTube wouldn't get us for. And I don't know if you watched the links I sent you, but that video is just fun to watch, whether you skateboard or not. And it's a great showing the feeling that I'm trying to do with WordZine is that, we're all in this together. Like everyone made this happen. All the people on that trip would say, oh, thanks Varney for making this. I'm like, no, thank you. We made this. And that was a great trip. So that trip was awesome. And ironically, the week after we came back, the entire world shut down.
I want to hop into a little segment here. It's called TNT, Topics Not Trending. Okay, 2 words. This is what you do with your eyes. Not see, but if I would say, oh, over there. First word. That's the first word. So would I say over there? Use your eyes to
look.
There it is. And the second word is like ZZ Top has a song about it. You know, you're looking good. You're a blank dressed man.
Oh, sharp.
Yeah, and you put yeah. And you know what? I fucked it up. I would have lost that round. So here's the thing about I said the word look. So you technically won, but I screwed it up. I lost the point.
That's okay.
Because I said the word look, and I'm not allowed to say anything.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so look sharp. What do we know about
Sorry, I got a friend joining me here. Okay, what do I know about look sharp? About myself, or just in general about who should people look sharp or not, or
anything that just when you hear that term, anything
okay.
comes to mind.
Look sharp. I would say that reminds me of back to Dunbat Skate Park. That reminds me of my good friend Kevin Gabriel, KG, and he's always got the flyest kicks. You know, he's always got the newest, hottest Nike SBs, and he looks sharp. He always looks sharp. So my good buddy nice. Kevin Gabriel, big shout out to him.
Nice, that's awesome. When I think of it, I think of weddings. You know, it's kind of always fun dressing up for a wedding. You know, you're looking sharp, you're feeling good, you know you're gonna have a good time, kind of thing.
Okay.
So that's look sharp for me. So I'll make a comeback here. I'll be better this one. So, 2 words again. First word, it's a gust of
wind.
Second word is you're digging a small circular hole into the ground and you can crawl into it. Or a train goes into one of these and it gets all dark.
The tunnel?
Yeah, put them together.
Wind tunnel?
There it is. We got that one.
All
Wind
right.
tunnel, baby. Okay, third one.
Can I put this on my resume?
What do we know about wind tunnel?
What don't I know about wind tunnel? I mean, I was thinking of this last night. Wind tunnel, I would say that Bay Street in Toronto. Everyone's had that moment street skating or downtown Toronto, and that is a wind tunnel, that strip, and the wind coming off the water. And that's some of the coldest moments I can remember. Just having a walk to get a coffee and just being like, this coffee is not worth it. That's right. A wind tunnel, Bay Street.
Right. Nice. What I think of, I work in the film business and I do location stuff, and I had to reach out to this place once who was like a wind tunnel, something supply, whatever. And they used to use wind tunnel technology against vehicles.
Yeah.
So it'd just be like a big white room, and you would pull the vehicle in, and then they would just blast it with wind or whatever. I was searching it to be like a location as like a sci-fi location or something. We'd go in and dress it differently or whatever. But that's what comes to mind for me for wind tunnels.
Okay.
All right, third one. Okay, here we go. One word. Song made famous by Neil Young about a small town in North Ontario.
I mean, I guarantee I know the song.
There is a town.
I'm drawing a blank here.
He sings it.
I'm just going through every Neil Young song, but it's a word. So is there a different
one word?
Is there a different hint I could have? Because I just got lost in Neil Young now.
A different hint would have to be, what do you yell when you're in trouble? What's the go-to word?
Help.
Yeah.
And then less.
Yeah.
Helpless. Just like me on this question, I would helpless. Yeah, that's a good question. So I mean, every person, just kind of like you had alluded to, is, you know, the person's board wall kind of is a reflection of them. But as well, I mean, for me, like I have a section of boards that are friends that have become a professional and they have a board with their name on it. But then I also have the collection where it's the originals and the OGs, you know, the legends of the sport from before my time, or, you know, the 80s or the 90s. So you can collect for different ways. Sometimes people have boards on their walls that aren't even skateboarders. It's just maybe there's a artist that's done the art for the board and they support that artist. So the board, you know, boards do look good on walls. They, apart from using them to skateboard, they do make good art pieces. A lot of shops that aren't even owned by skateboarders will have boards on the wall, maybe with their logo on it or something like that. Tattoo shops or barber shops, you'll see. But yeah, for me, it's I'll try to pursue boards that are pros from, you know, past years that inspired me or got me stoked on skateboarding, or pros that are friends of mine that have a board come out. So there's different reasons of why you'd put a board on the wall, but it's fun, and you know, it's just a collection like anything else someone could have.
Right. You said it's like a piece of art. It is like a piece of art, hanging it on the wall. So these ones behind you, did you buy them with the intention of ever using them? Do you think you'll ever use them, or are these ones strictly art?
These ones behind me are art. They're reissues. So you'll see, I'm not sure if you're aware of Dinosaur Jr., the band, but this is a Dinosaur Jr. Alien Workshop is the company. This one here, the purple one. And that was reissued in about 2008, but it originally came out in mid 90s. And so for that one, I saw it and I was like, I was a big dinosaur at that time, really big into Dinosaur Jr. So I just had to buy it for no intent to skateboard it, to ride it. The one beside it, this one here, is actually an original. So this is from 89 or 90. And this was given to me from a friend I helped sadly close down their skate shop, and they paid me to help them take down all the fixtures and everything with some shoes and his old original board. So this board has been ridden, but by the original owner when I was like 1 or 2 years old. So that's kind of cool, and that's an original, which the collectors really want those ones. And I mean, it's a little more, it's actually, you can see it's been skated. If that hadn't been skated, that'd be worth thousands and thousands of dollars. But, you know, it's been skated, but not enough that you can't see the graphics. So that's kind of cool. For that guy as well, I've actually, through the magic of social media these days, I've actually reached out and messaged that guy his name's on the board, Jeff Phillips. And he was just like, cool, man. He's what now? He's 60 years old. But it's fun. And I mean, yeah, and it goes all the way along. There's a Ray Barbie board, who was a famous street skateboarder in the 90s. And then Ray Bones Rodriguez was a board from roughly about 81 when it came out. That's a reissue. And he was the first person, I believe, that had their own first pro board. So there's a story for everything. And yeah, they're good conversation pieces apart from being art.
How many do you have there that just we don't see on screen as well? How long does it go?
This wall goes, there's a couple boards underneath too. This wall is 8 boards and 2 underneath. And then I have another 6 boards that I've just been too busy to put up. So roughly, I'd say I'm close to 20 boards.
One other thing, Tony Hawk. A couple things, some pop culture things I want to talk to you about with skateboarding. Yeah. So Tony Hawk, were you into those video games?
Big time. Have you seen that they just re-released 1 and 2? They remade it.
I saw it. I only saw like a clip. It looked amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I wanted it. I
had the Tony Hawk games when they first came out, and I actually started skateboarding the day after Tony Hawk landed the 900 in 1999. That day I saw it, and then I told my mom, I need a skateboard. And so I actually started skateboarding the day after Tony Hawk landed the 900. Skateboarding seriously. Before that, I had a skateboard you sit on at the end of your driveway. But but Tony Hawk, and his skateboarding games, I've been following those my entire life. 1, 2, 3, 4, Underground. Tony Hawk 5 was really bad, though. I didn't buy that one.
I think it was the first one or whatever that I really fell in love with there, and like just the amount of tricks and everything you could do, and it was just the coolest to me. I think I remember Bob Burnquist, I think, was one of my favorite characters, and then maybe Andrew someone, I can't remember.
Andrew Reynolds.
Andrew Reynolds, yeah.
Yeah, he's
Those are
the
my two
boss.
guys.
He's the best. Yeah, he's one of my favorites of all time.
Another thing, Lords of Dogtown, or skate movies in general. Did you ever see Kid? I know Kids is kind of like half skate movie, half super serious.
Kids, I would say Kids is a skate movie because it has Harold Hunter in it, who rest in peace, who's a legendary New York skateboarder. And I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was helping with the directors with kind of the vibe of like what skateboarders are. Because obviously you've seen the movie, you know, when they're around the fountain. To me, it sticks out. And they brought in Harold Hunter to help give the real feeling because he's a skateboarder. And he passed away back a long time ago, but he was a legend.
That made sense because that movie was super authentic, just how they were talking to each other, sitting around that fountain and skating and stuff. It was great. Yeah,
it's iconic. So I think that single-handedly makes that considered a skate film, at least to a skateboarder. Skateboard films other than that, like Hollywood and skateboarding. Yeah, Lords of Dogtown was great. Heath Ledger was in that. He played, what was it, Sonny? These are all real characters. The Dogtown movie came out before the Dogtown Hollywood movie, the Dogtown documentary, was really well done. Other than that, I mean, there have been some skateboard movies that are really, really bad.
Like what?
One's called Grind.
Right. I remember I was working at the movie theater when that came out.
Okay.
It was bad.
I went and saw it. But it's like, that'd be one. But then today has a new culture where everything that was bad is now good. So it's like, that would be one for sure. I can see some, what was it, millennial kids being like, kids that are a bit younger than me being like, that's the greatest bad movie ever. For me, I think it just sucked. One though that I have to give respect to is an 80s movie called Gleaming the Cube, which is one of the best skate movies I've ever seen. And I suggest anyone watch Gleaming the Cube, or at least Google it.
Good suggestion. I've never heard of it, so that's a good suggestion.
It's fantastic.
Because the thing is, people want instant success. I don't know why that's become a thing now, but I've always kind of understood that success is a long grind kind of thing. It seems this day and age, maybe with social media and stuff, people kind of want instant success. So what do you have to say to someone who, to keep them going with maybe their passion, if they want to do a zine or if they want to do something in skating or anything?
Or a podcast or, anything. Yeah, no, that's a great question. Off top, what comes to mind is, especially for the grassroots types of things where you aren't going to get immediate recognition. It's going to take 12 years. It's going to take 50 episodes. It's going to take whatever. Is just keep it simple. Keep it simple. But on top of that, always try to grow. And so never let yourself say you've done it and you've reached the pinnacle, because there shouldn't be a ceiling. If there's a ceiling, then you're becoming complacent with what you're doing. So I would say keep it simple. I would say keep it fun. Keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer, but also try to make those enemies your friends too. Because I have numerous stories of people that I had butted heads with, but now I'm actually very, very close to. And those enemies, whether it be an effort from me or an effort from that other person, or sometimes just time, those enemies sometimes become your friends, sometimes. But also enemies are something that is going to keep pushing you, because you're not going to get fully challenged by your friends.
Oh, it was good. I think that's great advice. Keep it simple, have fun, keep your friends close, enemies close. I think that's all great. One thing, I watched one of the videos. It was sponsored by Thrasher, had 33,000 views or something. How does that come about? Did you got it looked like you got invited maybe to go skate at their thing or something? I don't really know. Tell me about that.
I love the story. I love that story because there's a lot to it as well. Like, it was a big effort to get that posted on Thrasher. So that was at the very last day of the San Francisco trip last year. And obviously its own separate video. So our street footage is that main video. This other one was at the Thrasher. That's their private skate park at Thrasher, across the street from their offices. So how that came about is in issue 4, the one I was releasing in California last year, there's an interview with one of the dudes at Thrasher, the photo editor, Dan Z. And just through networking, I got, I met him before, but through networking, I got it set up where we were going to do an interview in the magazine. And my good friend Lee Yanku, who's used to live in SF, he's a pro skateboarder but lives in Toronto now. He set it up, and he actually did the interview with Dan. And we had Dan have a 4, 5, 6 page interview. I think it was 6-page interview in that issue 4. So we were in, of course, San Francisco releasing the zine. And obviously I'm going to say to him, being the networker I am, so, Dan, mind if I pop by one day? So I'd like to see the Thrasher office. I did not expect him to say yes. He said yes. So one day out of our, 3 days before we left, I get up before everyone else, hungover as hell, take the SF bus to the middle of nowhere. It's Hunter's Point. I mean, it's not, I know where it is, but it's a long bus ride. It would have been like a $60 Uber. So I just took the bus. Yeah, I wanted that culture, right? And Dan met up with me, gave me a tour of the Thrasher office. I got to meet some of the web guys. I got shown the legendary office of Jake Phelps, who had just passed away about 7 months before. It was kind of chilling, actually. He's giving me the tour. He's like, oh, this is the art room. Oh, here's where the guys do the web stuff. Oh, and that's Phelps's office. And then I'm just kind of like, oh. And like anyone that's a skateboarder knows who Jake Phelps is. He was the main person of Thrasher magazine for 30 years or whatever. I don't know. I could be totally wrong with the number. And he's like, yeah, we haven't gone in there since he died. And the office is just how we left it, I guess. And I had goosebumps. And I mean, I turned around like, oh, tried to play it off like cool, like, oh yeah, oh, yeah, wow. Like I didn't know what to say. Like I have goosebumps right now thinking about that memory. But the rest of the tour was good. Met some of the web guys, and this point is important with the getting the video on Thrasher. And then the tour is over. Dan gave me some free Thrasher gear, which obviously Dan's an OG. Thanks, Dan. And he's like, oh, so how'd you get out here? I'm like, I bussed. He's like, oh, I'm actually heading downtown, SF. You want to ride? So we jump in his truck and we grab a sandwich on the way, and he drops me off downtown. During that car ride, we're talking about, Canadian skateboarding and, just skateboard chat, shop talk, as they say. And I was like, now is the moment. I have to ask him before I get out of this truck. I'm like, so Dan, by the way, like 2 days from now is our last day. I have to ask, do you think we could get into the Double Rock, which is their private park? Think I bring the guys down to Double Rock? He's like, sure, why not? You don't ask, you don't receive. So he while driving, just makes a quick text. All right, I'm hitting you up with the Redder. You just guys show up on your last day. The park's yours. Sure enough, I somehow get all whatever of us at that point. There was like 18 of us left in the trip still, or maybe a little less. Somehow get us all out there in our friend's camper van. Megan, respects for driving 20 skateboarders out on your van, which is ridiculous. And we skate the Thrasher Park, and it was just us there for most of the time we were there, probably about 4 hours-ish, maybe more. And halfway through the session, we get a call from, I guess they have webcams, and it's the guy Redder who runs the park. He lives in like an apartment like off to the side. He's like, I've been watching you guys skate, keep filming and we'll put it up on the Thrasher website. So everyone's just pumped. Everyone skates even harder, and all the footage is so good for that reason, basically. And then obviously we head home and the trip's over, and our own video comes out a week or so later. But also the pandemic hit. And so this video, it was found that this thing had just fallen through the cracks. So I reached out to Trent saying, I think I might have found some life in this thing. And it still took another 2 months after that. But eventually, they usually edit their own videos. But for this one, they were just like, do you think Trent could edit it for us and find some royalty-free music? And I'm like, Trent, do you think he'd do this? He's like, yeah. Trent does it within like a week. We get it off to them. It still had like almost died again. Like, oh my God, this thing cannot like come out. And like we were told that they want to put it on. So like that's why I didn't let it die. I was like, in my mind, I'm like, they told us that they called us in the middle of the session, told us we were killing it. I'm like, I got to do this for the guys. Like these kids in the video, or just in general, and WordZine, get on Thrasher. That's in a sense a one way of making it, getting a video on Thrasher. So long story short, even though this is a very long story, it eventually went up, and it was like the 16th of December or something like that. I forget exactly, but it went up, and no one can ever take that away from us. So yeah, that was just the last day of the trip, and turned out, yeah, it's just coming up on almost 35,000 views, which is actually low for a Thrasher video, but oh well, this Canadians went up there, and that's something cool.
Okay, we're gonna hop into something here called the Gauntlet.
All right.
And basically the Gauntlet is just like existential questions. There's no right or wrong answer, okay?
I like those types of questions.
So, favorite piece of clothing?
Favorite piece of clothing. I do have quite a large t-shirt collection, but my one t-shirt, which is my Slayer t-shirt, is my favorite. And I wish I was wearing it right now. I actually wanted to wear it, but it needs to be washed. So even though you can't smell through a Zoom meeting. But yeah, my Slayer t-shirt.
What's something you were really into as a kid?
Something I was really into as a kid was Toronto Maple Leafs forward center Doug Gilmour. I have over 60 of his hockey cards. You know, when they ask you those, the password questions, if you want to reset your password, who was your hero growing up? I always put Doug Gilmour in that question. Yeah, captain of the Leafs, Doug Gilmour, number 93.
That's awesome. He was one of my favorites too. Those were the good old days. Potvin, Anderchuk, Gilmour. Holy cow. I used to love him. Clark.
Yeah.
What noise do you hate?
When you're running down the steps on the TTC and you hear the ding, 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 and you know you're not going to make it, but you're still like committed. That's the sound I hate. Even though, you know what? Now that I'm I'm 34 in a month, I would probably now though these days be like, I'll take the next one. I don't care. But I used to always hate that sound. I don't know why. That's what came to mind.
What's the most useful thing you own?
I'd say my PS, even though I want a PS5 and I can't find one, my PS4, because I mean, I play video games, but not like I'm not a gamer. I just bought Grand Theft Auto Vice City. That's because I played it 20 years ago. But my PS4, I use it for, YouTube to me is my TV. Like all my subscriptions, it shows up just as every day. And I finish work, I go where I left off before, and hundreds and hundreds of videos. I can watch, Netflix, Disney Plus, whatever. But my PS4 is paid for itself over and over and over again. It actually I need a PS5 because the controller doesn't charge. It charges for like 20 minutes and then I have to plug it back in. But PS4 is definitely, it's right there. I'm looking at it. It's definitely my most used item for sure.
I think Vice City, my favorite was San Andreas for the amount of stuff you could do before things got too crazy. Obviously, who's not going to like 4 and 5 and stuff because the graphics and everything just became amazing. But when things were kind of still in the beginning stages, San Andreas, I love how big the world was. You could jump out of airplanes and parachute. That was crazy. But I think Vice City was the pinnacle for me in terms of like story and amount of excitement that the game and intensity that the game kind of brought, or just like mind-blowing factor at the time too.
Yeah. And also on top, to add to that, it just because I'm playing it right now again, just like the kind of the gangster like mobs vibe to it. I remember vividly playing through it again. At the time when I first played it in 2000 or whatever, when it first came out, I was really into Elmore Leonard novels. And there's a few Elmore Leonard novels that are there's one in particular, I don't know what it was, I can't remember now. But if you read that novel and play the game, you would be convinced that they made the game after that novel. Like the character is almost the exact same to what's his name in Vice City? Tommy Vassetti.
Tommy Vassetti. Yeah, Lance Vance Dance.
Yeah, Lance.
It takes from so many movies. I know there's Scarface, obviously.
Oh, big time.
There's Carlito's Way, because I think the lawyer character played by Sean Penn.
Oh yeah, they have the
with the hair.
Yeah, for sure.
That's from Carlito's Way. So yeah, I love those games. They take a little bit of everything from pop culture and whatever.
Yeah.
And it's great.
But Elmore Leonard novels. Those are
He's great. I've got one right here, actually.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, it's called The Cool 6000. It's about the JFK assassination,
Oh, cool.
how it kind of stemmed from a $6,000 payment for a hit kind of thing.
Nice.
Intertwining stories, and it's
Cool.
it's what do you call it? It's made up. It's his interpretation, you know, of things that may have happened, but there's some really mind-blowing stuff in it. But yeah, I love Elmore Leonard. Tarantino loves Elmore Leonard too. So if you see Tarantino stuff, he takes a lot from that, which is really great.
Yeah.
But getting back to yourself here, 2 questions left. Why are we here?
We're here to wake up the next day. Because if we're not here, we're not waking up the next day. So I think that's back to my keep it simple. That's why we're here. What you do after that is up to you.
And what does the world need most?
Everyone should have a kitty cat because they get you through the day. And I like dogs, but I think I think a cat's mentality is a great way to sum up how everyone feels about this pandemic. You know, just a cat just kind of sitting there being like, when are you feeding me next? Like, what's next? Like, just the way they look at you.
To tell you the truth, I made that realization a little bit early on. I said, you know what? I've kind of become my cat. Granted, I can still go out, get groceries and stuff like that. But since we are kind of forced to spend so much time inside our house, I'm like, oh, this is what my cat deals with every day. And imagine being in a small space. You know, I'm lucky I have some decent space here for my cat. He runs around and it's great for him and also for me, for my cat life, you know, during this pandemic. So
for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of looking out the window, a lot of just playing with toys. Alex, thank you for being here, man. Alex from WordZine. Just stick around here after I sign off. But everyone, hope you enjoyed the episode today. Thank you for joining us. And as always, keep on the grass.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.